we are in chapter 78, that is the tubular function of from our kidney physiology, renal physiology. So now today we are going to start the tubular processing of glomerular filtrate. So first, actually in the process of formation of urine, we mainly have the three steps. The first one is glomerular filtration, that is, for example, I'll draw a mini diagram so that we can understand it easily. So here, thick part. So this is a glomerular capillary tuft, the Bowman's capsule. Here comes the PCT. Here comes the descending part of loop of Henle, and here comes the ascending part, thick part of loop of Henle, and here comes the DCT, distal convoluted tubule, and here comes the cortical collecting duct, and here comes the collecting tubule. So actually collecting ducts together form a collecting tubule. So this is a mini diagram of our nephron system. So the main thing to formation of urine, so finally here the urine forms. So for the formation of urine, the first one is the glomerular filtration, that is the filtrate, that is the plasma flow which is passing through it. It should pass by the glomerulus. The first one is glomerular filtration, GFR, and next comes the transcellular absorption and paracellular absorption. So actually in PCT or any other substance, first we need to understand what is transcellular absorption. Remember, trans means it is something like moving inside the cell. So for example, this is a cell, the substance is from the lumen, try to move inside the cell from the cell, that is called transcellular. And for example, this is second cell. So paracellular means in between these two cells, if the substance from the lumen passes, that is called as paracellular. So transcellular is the movement of substance from the lumen into the cell directly from the cell, but paracellular is in between the cell. And next we have the secretion. Secretion is sometimes from the cells only. Some of the substances, organic substances, any of them are secreted, so that they will also come out in the urine along with the substances. So plasma along with the secreted substances gives the urine for us. So now let us see some basics and continue this chapter. So the normal GFR is 120 milliliter per minute, and for one day, if you count it, will get 1440 milliliter per minute. For day. So for 1 minute, 120 ml of GFR means filtrate is formed. Total like about 1.5 liter of urine is discharged out for one day. So what is urine excretion? So the urine excretion is nothing but equal to the glomerular filtration and secretion. So glomerular filtration is the amount of plasma which is flowing by this, and secretion is the substances which are coming from the cell. So total will get then 17,800 milliliter per day, that is equal to like about 180 liters per day. So you can say this is a filtrate, this is not the urine formation. You will not urinate 180 liters per day. 180 liters per day is just the filter rate, means the renal plasma flow which is passing through this system. So now you can understand, if 180 liter per day is daily filtered, in this only 1.5 liters is excreted, means you can see like about 99% of the fluid is getting reabsorbed back. So you may get a doubt like, why need to we pass this and why again to reabsorb this? Because this is the only place where we can reabsorb all the essential things. There is no other function in our body rather than kidney. So kidney plays, so you can understand how much work the nephron does every day for us. It will absorb like about 99% of the fluid back again, and only 1.5 liter of urine is produced for one day. So urine formed as 1440 milliliter per day, and out of 120 ml, that is the GFR, 1 ml is urine, that is more than 99% of fluid is reabsorbed, and out of 180 liters, 1.5 liter is the urine which is formed per day, like 178.5 liter daily absorption by nephron. So you can see such huge amount, like 178.5 liters. So it's like very big tanker, right? These cells are like very big tanker, not only PCT, of course all the cells where there is reabsorption. And the proximal convoluted reabsorption is like about 65% of fluid. That 65% contains sodium, chlorine, water, glucose. Here it's 100% reabsorbed, and amino acids are 100% reabsorbed, but the sodium, chlorine, water, these are only 65% reabsorbed. So the foldings of proximal convoluted cells are called brush border towards the luminal side. So for example, this is the lumen, here the plasma flow, So this is the luminal side and this is the basolateral side, because this is the base of the cell and this is the lateral sides, right? So this is called basolateral side, that is towards the capillary blood vessel, whereas this side where the plasma is flowing, for example this, so this side is a luminal side, this side we have the brush border towards the luminal side of membrane, and opposite to that is a basolateral membrane. So tight junctions between the PCT cells, but they allow water to pass freely, different from other tight junctions. Their main function is to hold the cells together and also to differentiate the basal and luminal membranes. So what they mean to say, for example, here one more cell in the PCT, not only PCT, in the nephron system, they have tight junctions, means this cell is held tightly with this, but these are different tight junctions. Normally in other tight junctions the water is not allowed, solutes are also not allowed, but here the solutes and water are freely allowed, that is there is chance for paracellular transport here even though they have tight junctions. Then what is the use of these tight junctions here? The use of these tight junctions here is to maintain the bonding between the two cells so that they'll not separate from each other. So the peritubular cells are going to receive the proteins or ions from the transcellular and paracellular reabsorption. So peritubular capillaries are nothing but the capillaries which are around the PCT and DCT, distal convoluted tubule and proximal convoluted tubule. Around them we have a peritubular network, whereas around the loop of Henle we have our vasa recta. We already discussed, because the PCT and DCT are in the cortex. As they are in the cortex, even the peritubular capillaries in the cortex, so they are near to them. But you can see this loop of Henle which is like in the medulla, so that is the reason why the loop of Henle have vasa recta as their capillary network, which is present in the medulla. So now we'll see further. So actually the sodium potassium ATPases are present only in the basal membrane, that is they intake 2 potassium and they move 3 sodium out of the cell, so it utilizes the energy. So the active transport here, the primary active transport, because here ATP is used directly, so actually this is going on the basolateral membrane. So some potassium leak out by leaky channels, so it is cell becomes highly electrically negative. So actually now inside the cell already we are bringing 2 potassium into the cell and we are getting out 3 sodium out, and some potassium channels also leak out by leaky channels, so cell becomes highly electrically negative. So now as sodium is less in the cell from the tubule to the cell, that is from the lumen side, the sodium now moves by the concentration gradient, but the problem is sodium is charged, so it is facilitated by a carrier protein, especially like SGLT1 or 2, so it enters the cell but again thrown out by sodium potassium ATPase into the capillary, that is peritubular. So what is the situation here? I'll draw a diagram. For example, this is the lumen, this is the basolateral side, this is the lumen side. So actually on the basolateral side here we have the sodium potassium pump. It tries to bring sodium into the cell and it tries to bring potassium out of the cell. So actually they are moving against concentration gradient, so this is called primary active transport. And here towards the lumen side, as now we can understand, the sodium is going out of the cell, sodium is going out of the cell, potassium is coming into the cell. So as the cell is now having more potassium and low sodium means, so from the lumen the sodium, the filtered glomerular filtrate which is having sodium can easily go into the cell according to concentration gradient, because here there is high sodium, here low sodium. So from higher from low concentration to high concentration it will easily go, but it should be facilitated because here it requires some protein, so it is facilitated diffusion. So now from here the sodium will go out just by normally because 3 sodium will get out again by sodium potassium pump. So again this sodium potassium pump gets out the sodium, so that now it will go into the, because beside you have peritubular capillaries, so it will go into the peritubular capillaries. So glucose moves against concentration gradient into the cell, and as we know it is a co-transporter of both sodium and glucose. So now as the sodium has come, here also we have a co-transporter. So as sodium is coming down the concentration gradient and glucose is coming against the concentration gradient, so here you can see the sodium is going just by facilitated diffusion, no ATP is required, but glucose it should go against concentration gradient, so here the energy is required, but that energy is provided by this sodium. As this sodium is going just by facilitated diffusion, then it produces some energy, that too by means of this sodium potassium ATPase on the basolateral side, it gives some ATP to it, so that it produces the energy for the glucose. So you can see here the ATP is used indirectly, not directly. So this indirect process of using ATP is called secondary transport. So this is a secondary active transport. So, and this is also called as co-transport, because at the same time from the lumen, both sodium and glucose are going into the cell of a PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. So transportation of glucose is secondary active transport, and obene can block the sodium potassium ATPase. Sometimes sodium potassium ATPase can be blocked by obene. So you can understand the situation. If it is blocked, then from this pump there is no ATP for this co-transport. So as there is no ATP, the glucose may not come into the cell now. And mitochondria lie around the basal layer and more in the proximal convoluted tubule. So you can see the mitochondria lie around the basal layer and more in the cell, especially in the PCT cell. So why mitochondria are more here? Because they need to produce ATP, and that is required in our sodium potassium ATPase, and also in a primary active transport, and as the secondary active transport in the case of glucose. So that's why they have more mitochondria. Amino acids. Now let us go into amino acids. So amino acids are also trying to move against the concentration gradient. Here also the sodium co-transporter works. That is, sodium undergoes a facilitated diffusion, whereas amino acid undergoes against concentration gradient, that is secondary active transport. So same like here, as the sodium and glucose, instead of glucose now here amino acid comes. So even the amino acids and glucose are transported by means of sodium. 100% they both are completely reabsorbed into the PCT cells by means of this sodium glucose co-transport and sodium amino acid co-transport. So basolateral membrane have channels for glucose which move freely out of the cell by facilitated diffusion. So basolateral membrane have channels for glucose. So now this is the basolateral side. So the glucose which have come, which go out from this basolateral membrane into the capillary, and even the amino acid also have here free glued transporters. So by this they can easily come by means of facilitated diffusion into the capillaries. So like this, the filtrate which is in the kidney is going to be reabsorbed like this in this process. So the basolateral also have amino acid channels go out by facilitated diffusion. The lateral part of PCT involved in uptaking sodium with chlorine, and sodium goes by facilitated and chlorine is secondary, same. So as a sodium glucose co-transporter, as a sodium amino acid co-transporter, we also have sodium and chlorine co-transporter, but somewhat in a lower part of PCT. Why this happens? Because you can see now the filtrate which is coming, it has now no sodium, no amino acid, no glucose. So you can see it has become concentrated with the chlorine. So next the chlorine also gets transported in the same way as co-transporters of like glucose and amino acid. But chlorine is also only 65% reabsorbed, whereas the amino acids and glucose are 100% reabsorbed. So now you can see at the beginning, for example, its osmolarity is 300. Even at the end of PCT it will be 300, because as the same amount of sodium, chlorine, as the same amount of ions are going out, the same amount of water also follows it. So because of this, the osmolarity remains the same. Only the content may decrease, because as the solutes and water are going, the content in the PCT will of course decrease. So lateral part, So water rushes along through solutes by para and transcellular way from the luminal to the interstitial fluid. Water along with solutes is moved by passive movement. This is called solvent drop. Just by passive movement, it doesn't require any channels, anything like that, any transport mechanism, just by solvent drag, because as the solutes are going, even the solvent follows it. So pH of body fluid 7.4 is maintained by bicarbonate, and H plus is 40 nano equivalents. Kidney master organ producing bicarbonate and recapturing it. So how it happens? So for example, now let us see this. If bicarbonate is coming, so first let us see inside the cell what happens. Actually inside the cell we have water and also carbon dioxide. So water and carbon dioxide bind to form carbonic acid, that is H2CO3, in the presence of carbonic anhydrase, and this H2CO3 it break down into H plus and CO2, sorry, H2O and CO2. And this H2CO3 will break down into H plus ion and bicarbonate. So this is how the bicarbonate is formed inside the cell. And this bicarbonate, this H plus is, here we have in the PCT one more transporter, which is sodium hydrogen opposite transport. That is, here as the sodium is coming into the cell, the hydrogen ion will come out of the cell. So as the sodium is coming, the hydrogen is pumped out of the cell. So as the hydrogen is coming out of the cell, already in the PCT filtered fluid we have bicarbonate. So H plus and HCO3, again it will form H2CO3, and that H2CO3 by same process it will break down into H plus ion and bicarbonate, and now this bicarbonate is taken up by the cell. So this is how this process will go on. Sorry, but here outside this H2CO3, that is carbonic acid, break down into H2O and CO2. So here outside it will break down into H plus and CO2, and this CO2 will again go into the cell and bind with water, and this process continues. So like this the bicarbonate comes and goes into the cell. So you can see the carbonic anhydrase bind water with carbon dioxide to form bicarbonate and proton. The proton is transported to lumen, which brings sodium inside the cell, and H plus out is counter transported or antipode. So the H plus transport is secondary active transport. This proton destroys the bicarbonate outside cell tubule into water and carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is entered into the cell and the process continues. Finally the bicarbonate exceeds the cell by facilitated diffusion. Means as I said, here the bicarbonate is formed, so that bicarbonate again exceed the cell, and some of it also goes this side, that is into the lumen. Here this H2CO3 will into bicarbonate and H plus, right? That H plus only will come out and bind with this, but the bicarbonate will go into the cell. So this is how directly the bicarbonate is coming in the lumen, but it should go, but it will not go directly. It will undergo this indirect process and go inside the cell. So finally bicarbonate exits cell by facilitated diffusion. And next, insulin is a smaller protein which can filtrate. Hemoglobin is 2 alpha plus 2 beta tetramer. So it can also filtrate. Insulin enters the cell and catabolism takes place. The catabolism of insulin. Now you are taking insulin in your body. Every hormone or everything in your body need to be catabolized. It should not stay where it will stay. So insulin need to be catabolized in the body in the means of mainly in the kidneys. In incompatible transplantation, for example, when RBC enters the cell but as secrete iron, the cells destroy and form acute tubular necrosis. Hemoglobin alone is very dangerous. That's why it's packed in the RBC. So whenever the RBC lysis takes place, the hemoglobin comes out and it may cause a threat to the especially kidneys, causing the acute tubular necrosis. Next, clathrins attach to the proteins present in luminal membrane so that they can pick up some proteins and undergo process of pinocytosis or released towards other side of the membrane. So even this type of transport is also seen in our PCT. Next, let us see if the glucose is filtering more than the limit, then it can't be reabsorbed and it appears in urine. This is called transport maximum. So what is transport maximum is, sometimes actually we said glucose 100% can be reabsorbed, but if more than 100% of glucose is coming, then what happens? It gets excreted in the urine. This case we will see especially in our diabetes mellitus patients. In them, as you know, their glucose levels are very high, so that their glucose will be excreted in the urine also, because they have reached the transporters have reached the transport maximum. Few substances can't attain transport maximum. Example, sodium go with glucose, amino acid, chlorine, that is co-transporters. It can also go through solvent tract. So by aldosterone, actually what happens is sodium potassium ATPase work more, and sodium gets out more of the cell, and cell sucks more sodium from the renal tubule. Sucks means actually whenever there is aldosterone, there is more absorption of sodium and water, so that more potassium is leaking out into the urine. Movement of sodium depends on concentration and electrochemical gradient, and also on time. So these are all not only on concentration, also it depends on the electrochemical gradient, and also it depends on the time. Now let us see the glucose titration curve of transport maximum, relationship between plasma glucose concentration, filtration, reabsorption, excretion. So if the plasma glucose is high, the filtration of glucose is high, even the reabsorption of the glucose is high. If the plasma glucose more than the limit, then other factors get saturation. All nephrons, all PCTs may not have the same capacity to take glucose or sodium. So as plasma glucose is increasing, some of the nephron may lose the glucose in urine. So the absorption curve moves away from the filtration load. So what is this curve? I will show that curve and explain you later after this theory. So further increase in glucose concentration will not increase the reabsorption. So actually that's what we are saying. Whenever transport maximum is reached, if more glucose is coming, then it will be for sure excreted out. It will not be reabsorbed. So the excretory load start increasing when the reabsorption curve is moving away. Later it run parallel to reabsorption. curve. The point at which it starts is known as renal threshold of glucose. When reabsorption curves start moving away, that point is called transport maximum. Nephrons show heterogeneity. The bend of reabsorption curve is known as splay. Remember splay. Splay is also present in excretory curve. So what is that splay? Everything I will show you in the graph. First understand the concept. Here nothing but the summary from this is, whenever there is more glucose or whenever there is more sodium, any substance, whenever it is very much high, then if the saturation of the channels has done place, then of course that compound will be excreted in the urine. And that splay is the concentration, that change at which suddenly that splay shows the saturation point of the transporter is that it is completely filled. So the splay appears and the graph tends to deviate towards the excretion. So excreted curve is parallel to filtered load curve. This graph is between filter load, reabsorption, excretion, plasma on x-axis, filter load on y-axis. I will show this curve now. So this is the curve. You can see on the x-axis we have plasma glucose concentration. On y-axis you can see the glucose, filter load, reabsorption. So actually this is a normal value, that is a filtration of glucose, but you can see it has reached the transport maximum. As it reached the transport maximum, you can see the splay has formed here. So because of this, as it is transported maximum, now there is no more reabsorption, so that it will lead to increase in excretion. So you can see the filter load is parallel to the excretion here, because how much the filtrate is coming, that much is getting excreted, because it has reached the transport maximum. There is no more reabsorption. So this is a graph which is explaining that phenomenon.